Again, if you understand what God is doing through John, and you recognize that God is using the events and the environments of Judaism to paint the portrait of Christ, what you realize here is that the point goes so much further, so much further. Again, one of the commentators says, "They have no wine," end quote, is not simply a comment by Mary about the panic of the wedding's host. It is a theological statement about the Judaism that is now meeting its Messiah in his very first miracle. Friends, the point is this: when your rituals run out, when your religion runs dry, what will you do? You see, in their context and in their culture, and to understand the Old Testament's application in the New Testament, it is to understand that wine was symbolic in their day as being representative of the joy that one could have. It's not about getting drunk. It's a symbolic expression of the joy, not only that God would give, but you'll see in Amos 2, as a great example. In other places in the Old Testament, you'll see God actually refers to the day of the Lord as being the time of sweet wine. It'll be referred to as the time of the new wine. What is being said here is the old way of doing things in your religion and in your rituals are gone. You have no wine. The catastrophe is so much more than social. It's salvific. The quote being, "You have no wine. They have no wine. The wine has run out." It brings you and me to this point of asking, what are you going to do when your wine runs out? I ask you that with all the love in my heart, friends. And I ask it specifically to those who are familiar with the church, because so many go to church who have not yet come to Christ. And the point here is not that there won't be any wine, but that it's bad wine, and even the bad wine has run out. So many of our youth today hear YOLO. You only live once. That's bad wine, friends. That's the bad wine of today, and it will run out. I think so often, personally, have you ever been where the wine runs out? Have you ever been there when people come to the end? When there is this catastrophic reality? There is no wine. The wine has run out. I will tailor my time with you this morning based on our audience, but I will tell you, if you don't know my story, come and ask me sometime about my mom. I'm the byproduct of the wine running out. I ask you, have you ever considered, because I know some of you and those that will be watching through media, some of us say, you don't understand. I have the biggest vat of wine. My wine will never run out. Friends, I have to tell you, as a truth teller and as an ambassador of Christ, all bad wine runs out. It's just a question of when. And I just want to tell you, as one who has been broken, one who has spent a significant portion of my life drinking bad wine, distributing bad wine, sometimes the wine runs out during the best of times. And I just want to warn you, there have been many wine vats that have run dry on a apparent mountaintop. What are you going to do when the wine runs dry? I think of examples, and I'll share two that are personal and one that's global. I can tell you firsthand, I watched the devastation to somebody in my family who had a job with tremendous influence. He had the ability to make other people happy with the privileges of his job. His job changed, and instantly the wine ran dry. He could no longer give people what they wanted, and they no longer wanted him. and I watched a man crash emotionally because what he thought was an ample supply of wine that would never run out instantly from the mountaintop ran dry. Let me ask you how well you might know Ernest Hemingway. If we have any literature buffs here, considered to be one of the greatest authors, writers of a generation, right? If you study his life, a biographer did a full portrait of his life. He would be the epitome of the bucket list master. A man's man. He did it all. He wanted it all. He did it all. He experienced it all, right? And he culminates in the Key West, Margaritaville kind of, he had it all. I read a portion of his biography this week. It wasn't the end of the biography, but it was the end of his life. It had to do with a bathrobe and a shotgun. You can think that you have it all. And when you realize that that's either bad wine or that wine has run dry, it will be a catastrophe. My prayer, friends, is that you'll deal with the catastrophe on this side of eternity rather than find its consequence when it's too late. But this is the point that God is making. This is not about whether or not you drink or don't drink. This is about whether or not you put your faith and your trust in Christ alone. The third example I give you is me. I will tell you, I spent a lot of time this week, as reminded as I studied. I used to drink bad wine. I was very selfish, self-absorbed. I was shallow, self-centered. I was saturated in sinful pride. I had a lot of bad wine. And I was spreading bad wine. I ask you, friends, are you drinking bad wine? Are you putting trust in temporal wine? Where are you? Are you perhaps at this moment sour and self-reliant? Maybe your bad wine is an unsurrendered, stubborn state. Maybe your bad wine is that you're spiritually sick with one of any number of sticky sins. Something that you just can't seem to get off your fingers. It just keeps coming back, sticking. That's bad wine. Putting trust in our good deeds or in our knowledge or in our pedigree or in our resume. All bad wine. And friends, I got to tell you, bad wine, it brings a lot of hurt. And not just the kind of hurt that's like a personal hangover. Sadly, our bad wine often hurts others. And moms and dads, let me just tell you this, a little P.S. Most of the time, your kids will drink your wine. The wine you drink, the wine you trust, most of the time will be the wine that your kids drink and your kids trust. And Jesus is telling you and me right here in John 2, throw away the bad wine. Acknowledge the problem. Until you and I are willing to accept this passion problem, we cannot come to the party. Not come and stay. And this is the point. Until you and I come to realize that this world has no wine that is worship worthy, we're just going to be waiting for the bottom to fall out. And it will.